Most students think they are learning when in reality they are just memorizing like human photocopiers. The sad truth: photocopiers do not get smarter, they just spit out copies until they jam. But there are deeper levels of thinking, and mastering them separates the A+ brains from the mental zombies who keep stumbling through life's exams without ever leveling up. Welcome to Level 1, Remembering. This is where most students live and die. They cram their heads with facts the night before an exam, only to watch those facts vanish like disappearing ink a week later. You know that feeling when you stare at the test question and think, I have never seen this in my life. That is shallow thinking in action. Psychology shows that the brain is efficient at short-term recall, but terrible at keeping information long-term unless you engage with it more deeply. In other words, memory without meaning is fragile. Your brain is basically like a sketchy USB drive. It stores data until you sneeze, and then poof, everything is gone. Level 2 is understanding, and this is where real progress begins. It is the difference between parroting a meme and actually getting the joke. Memorizing lets you repeat the punchline, but understanding lets you explain why it is funny. Cognitive psychology calls this semantic encoding. When you connect new information to meaning, your brain treats it as something worth keeping. Instead of loose scraps floating in short-term memory, ideas become stitched into the bigger tapestry of what you already know. The practical twist? Once you truly understand something, you can explain it in your own words, teach it to someone else, or even apply it to a new situation. That is the point where knowledge stops being dead weight and starts working for you. Level 3 is application, and this is where the difference between knowing and doing finally shows itself. Picture two students in a math class. One has memorized every formula like they are sacred spells, but when faced with a real problem, they freeze. The other not only remembers the formulas, but knows when and how to unleash them. That second student is operating on the level of application, turning abstract knowledge into a weapon they can actually use. Owning a hammer does not make you a carpenter. Application is when you actually build something, not just pose with the tools for Instagram likes. Without it, you are basically just hoarding mental IKEA manuals you will never use, destined to live surrounded by half-assembled furniture and broken dreams. Level 4 is analysis, and this is where thinking takes on a sharper edge. Imagine a student faced with a tricky essay prompt. Instead of blindly writing, they break it down, dissect the wording, and map out exactly what is being asked. Or consider someone scrolling past an ad. Instead of just absorbing it, they deconstruct how it manipulates their emotions, whether through fear, desire, or social pressure. Analysis is when you stop being a consumer of ideas and start performing an autopsy on them. You take concepts apart like a curious surgeon, looking for the organs of truth and the tumors of deception. Psychologically, this taps into critical thinking, the brain's natural ability to recognize patterns, contradictions, and hidden motives. Once you see the wiring behind the message, you are no longer the puppet, but the one watching the strings. Now we reach the final stages: evaluation and creation. These are the graduate levels of thinking, where the brain stops playing defense and starts writing the rules of the game. Evaluation is all about making judgments based on evidence, logic, and criteria. It is when you stop accepting ideas at face value and start weighing them like a ruthless judge on a talent show. Instead of asking, is this right? You start asking, is this the best way and why? Creation is the peak, where thinking becomes invention. Imagine a student who does not just write an essay to answer the prompt, but challenges the assignment itself, reshaping the question and delivering an entirely new perspective. That is creation. It is where knowledge mutates into innovation. At this point, you are basically Neo from the Matrix. You do not just bend the rules, you rewrite the code. And once you reach this stage, you stop being another student in the system and start being the person who redesigns the system itself. Leaders, innovators, and problem solvers live here. The rest are just stuck memorizing instructions. Here is the uncomfortable truth. Most students never get past level 2 or 3. They memorize, they understand just enough. Maybe they apply occasionally, and then they stop. But the real power, the life-changing power, comes when you climb all the way to level 6. When your brain stops acting like a sponge, passively soaking up information, and starts acting like an engine, generating new ideas and propelling you forward. Mastering these higher levels is not just about better grades. It changes how you make decisions, how you solve problems, and even how you see the world. When you reach this level, influence, creativity, and control stop being buzzwords and start being tools in your mental toolbox. So next time someone tells you to just study harder, do not argue. Just smile and think to yourself, I am upgrading to level 6, peasant.